Hey crafty people, it's Tash here. Welcome back to my channel. And today I'm back with another episode of my 5 Ways With series. And this month we are talking 5 ways with Catherine Pooler's inks. So I love these inks and I'm going to show you 5 ways that I like to use them and ways that I think they are brilliant for using. So we're going to start off with stamping. Let's start off at the very basics. Yeah, these are fabulous inks for stamping with. So I've got the 4 newest inks that came out recently. So it is wintergreen, apricot, terracotta, and something else. Oh my. And yeah, I've got the boho feathers stamp set, and I'm just gonna stamp them out. Ginger, that's the other one. I kept thinking cinnamon, that wasn't right. So yeah, these inks are brilliant for stamping. A few things that I wanted to mention as I'm going ahead stamping there. So they are so good at stamping and I trust them so much that I am going to free range stamp this entire panel, which I wouldn't do with some inks, but definitely I do trust Catherine Pooler inks. So I'm just stamping the various feathers in those 4 colours. I really love how these colours work together. Just as a slight aside, I think they're awesome. Yeah, I love how this stamped panel ends up. You will notice from some of my stamps there, these inks will stain, so they will stain your stamps. But as long as you clean them off and you could, stamp them onto something with no ink coming off, they will not affect, the staining of the stamp will not affect how you stamp it in the future. It's just that because these are dye inks and they are fabulous inks, they can and will stain. So there's stamping. Technique number 2 that I love to do with these inks is embossing. So yes, you can emboss with Catherine Pooler inks. They take a little longer to dry, which is why you can emboss with them. But you do need to be quick. You need to be quicker than you would if you were, say, using Wow's Ultra Slow embossing ink. But yeah, you will get fabulous results using Catherine Pooler inks. So I've got some of the mini inks. I think it is Something Borrowed, Suede Shoes, and Juniper Mist. I love my blues. And I'm just going for an oldie but goodie technique of swiping those ink pads across the cardstock. Just to get a random background. I love doing this. You will see me do this all the time. I have loads of different examples of it. So I'm just adding it randomly to the panel, and then I'm adding some embossing powder over the top. So I've used Cummerbund over the Something Borrowed, and then this one that I'm adding over the other couple of colours is called Halo. So it's like clear with just iridescent glitter. It's just so yummy. I love it. And you get so much shine and sparkle from this background. I'm going to heat set it in a moment. You do want to heat set from behind, especially when you're using these glitter ones, so that you don't blow all the glitter away. But you can, as you can see there, as it sort of melts, you get that beautiful sparkle and shine, and I just love it. These inks are fabulous for embossing with. So I've shown you sort of a swinking technique with glittery embossing powder, but then I'm going to stamp out some of these beautiful butterflies, and I'm stamping them with Queen for a Day, which is like a purpley blue, very, very deep purple. So I'm going to stamp those, and then I'm going to add some clear embossing powder over the top. So it doesn't have to be glittery embossing powder. You can add any powder over the top, and this is just clear, and it's going to give us a really beautifully shiny and rounded kind of image, and I just love how this comes out. I just love it. So I've stamped out 3 of those butterflies, and then I'm going to colour them and fussy cut and add them to the card panel off screen. So I'm just showing you here, I used some Copics to add some orange colour, and I think that they pop so good. So technique number 3 is ink blending. So I also love ink blending, and I love these inks for that. So I'm using the domed foam applicators. Is it applicators? Yeah. The domed foam ones this time, but you know, you could use brushes, foam applicators, whatever you are comfortable with. And I'm going to add some It's Catching Rays, Do-Si-Do and Pucker Up. And I'm adding a very light all over colour. So I wanted to show you that you can go quite light and soft with these inks, or you can turn up the volume, the colour volume to 100, and be adding a little bit more pressure and more ink. And I'm just doing like a tone on tone effect, where I am blending the same colour over itself but through this stencil, and you'll be able to see how different these inks can be depending on whether you are gentler or a little bit more forceful with your colouring, your blending. And I'm using there the Brutus Monroe stick and stamp mat. I love it. So it's holding my panel, but it's also holding the stencil. Like, I've got no tape to hold the stencil in place. And I love it. Now, you'll see in a moment when I lift it up that it looks like my mat is horribly stained. But I did just keep in quickly the little clean that I did with the Brutus Monroe cleaner that they sell to go with it. I've got the unfragranced one, because I'm asthmatic, so I can't cope with the really heavily perfumed ones. But look how amazing that is. It just wipes completely off, but it doesn't wipe the sticky off, which I just think is genius. So we are going to move on to technique number 4, and this is basically direct to paper, but to give you like fully saturated, gorgeous colour. Because these inks are so juicy, and because of the soft, spongy pad that they are, so you can make cardstock either for, I'm doing a background panel here with a couple of the colours, and I did that purple there, and I've die cut that, so I've got perfectly matched die cuts. Then here I've got this is one of the die cuts from the recent release, and I'm just pushing that into the ink pad to colour it. So I love it, so you can always have cardstock that matches your inks perfectly. So technique number 5 is using watercolour. So these are fabulous for watercolouring images, but I decided to make a really quick, easy little watercolour background by just pressing some of those inks onto an acrylic block. I spritzed it with a couple of spritzes of water and then pressed that down into some distress cardstock. And then I also here, I'm going to sprinkle a bit of clean clear water over the top, and once we've let that sit for a moment, I'm going to mop that up, and you will see that these are completely water reactive, and you can get that beautiful like bleached look from them. They are awesome. So I did make a bit of a mess of the panel, so I decided to cut out this Happy Birthday die cut, and I added lots of layers of embossing powder, and then glued that to it and trimmed it out. I haven't included all of the actual turning these panels into cards in this video because it would have taken for a lifetime. But I'm going to have all of the details for each and every one of these cards over on the blog, with a list of the products that I used and how I went about finishing them and turning them into finished cards. But yeah, I absolutely love, I can't decide which my favourite is. It's either the feathers or the butterflies. I just love them. But yeah, I hope that this gives you lots of different ideas of how you can use these inks. And if you have any questions or anything, then please do drop them in the comments below. I hope that you have a lovely, happy, safe and wonderful week. Please do consider subscribing if you aren't already, and stay crafty. Bye!